So we are here with the folks from Kess here, and we're going to look at some of their games that they have. We're actually going to start off with Sonic Roll here with the designer, Anthony.
Hello. Yeah, so this is Sonic Roll. This is our 1 to 4 player semi-cooperative board game where you're going to be Sonic and his friends trying to stop Dr. Eggman from capturing the forest critters and destroying the planet. And so what you do in this game is you're going to be playing as a group, trying to get through a zone together. You win and lose as a group. But at the end of the game, you also have an individual score, and if you want to compare scores, you can see who kind of won the most. In order to play the game, on your turn, you're going to have 3 different dice actions you can choose from, and that action will let you build a dice pool. And so, say I'm Sonic and I choose my spin dash, it says I roll a red and a blue dice, and it says I keep doing that until I have 2 numbers in my dice pool that match. So there we go, I now have 2 4s, and so this would be my dice pool to use for the turn. And so once I start playing, I can play dice over here on zone cards in order to try to clear them by playing a die on the leftmost open spot as long as the number matches, and if there's a color, the color would have to match as well. So any 3 can be played there, that has to be a blue 3. So I have a 4, I can play that 4 here, and then in order to keep playing, I would have to re-roll the rest of my dice pool.
Okay.
And you keep doing that, spending dice one at a time. I can kind of jump around if I need to here. Or these bumpers are spots that when you play one, every bumper after that has to be the same. The first one can be whatever you want. Okay. So I can set this now, and then the rest would have to be a 5. I had to re-roll again. There's another 5. And at a certain point, after you spend a die, you can always choose to stop. You can say, I don't want to roll anymore, I don't want to risk it, because this is kind of a push your luck game. And if you ever roll and you can't play, so if I go like this and this is not a legal play anywhere, then you take damage. And what that means is any rings I'm holding, I would lose all of them. If I'm not holding any rings, I would actually lose a life instead. Okay. And if a player loses all of their lives, that's actually game over for the entire group.
Okay.
So instead, if I say, after I spent this die, I'm like, you know what, I only have 1 dice left. It's all 3s and 5s. It's kind of too risky. I can choose to stop. But if I stop and have any dice left, I have to take a time token off the scenario. And if all of the time tokens get taken, that's also game over for the group. You time out.
Okay.
Each of the die represents something. So the yellow dice is a jump die. Whenever you play a jump die, you just get 1 ring. Simple as that. The red dice are spin dice, and these dice are good against badniks. So certain spots on the board will release badniks onto the players. When you draw a badnik, you have to also give one to another player. And these badniks have to be dealt with by either avoiding them by playing this bottom number, which runs by them or jumps over them, and then you just discard them. Or with a red die, you can spin through them, destroy them, and free the little animal inside, which is worth points at the end. All badniks always have a red spot, so those are good to deal with them. And then finally, the blue dice are the run dice, and what a run die is if you play one, you can actually play again out of your die pool without having to re-roll. Okay. So if I had, a few more dice in my dice pool, I could go like, this, and then if this is a 4, I could play that. Well, I'd have to re-roll after that one. But you can play, a number of blue dice in a row like that and try to empty out your dice pool to end your turn. Once your turn is over, all the dice remain like this, and the next player will get to play and build off of what you have. And then when somebody plays on this last spot, you would clear this card, and you take the reward here, and then you replace it. Once all of these cards are done, you'll flip this over, and there's a boss battle on the other side. Each time you play a dice, there's also a reward on that spot. So, like this is rings. You would just take how many rings you see there. This is a boost token. What those are is they let you re-roll your dice pool once. And so if you were going to take damage from not being able to play, or maybe from a badnik, you could then re-roll. This is a power-up. There's a power-up deck over here, and you get to draw a power-up card. Those can be just one-time use things, like you get 5 rings immediately, or it could be a shield, which would protect you from damage, and they also have other effects as well. And then you also have hazard dice. Hazard dice are black die, and what those are is when you roll them, if they match anything in your pool, then you would take damage. So if I roll this and there was a 3, there's a 3 in my pool, I would have to take damage, which is I lose all my rings.
Okay.
There is the big ring, which is the bonus stage. And the bonus stage is you go over here to Blue Sphere, and you get to flip over a tile. And you're doing that because one of these tiles is the Chaos Emerald tile. So when I flip one over, if it is a white sphere, I would get whatever reward is there, so I get a boost token. I get to keep going. If it is a red sphere, I would stop. And then if it is a 1 Chaos Emerald tile, which is somewhere, I'll find it. There we go. If it's a Chaos Emerald, then you would get one of the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and you get to keep that. Those are one-time use items again for the scenario where you would get some extra dice and a cool ability for a turn, and then you would flip it over. You can also go to the bonus level by passing by a star post here. A star post will let you save any rings you're holding and kind of put them aside so you no longer take, if they no longer lose them if you take damage.
Okay.
You have to save all of your rings or none of them, and they're also not protecting you anymore. So if you do take damage, you would lose a life if you don't have any rings.
Okay.
But if you save at least 5 or more rings, you also get to come over to the bonus level. Once you find the Kess Emerald, you just shuffle these back up, and you do it again to try to find the next one. And if you do manage to complete all 4 stages, as I mentioned, there's Green Hill, there's Stardust Speedway, Lava Reef, and then Chemical Plant. If you manage to complete all of them and find all 7 Chaos Emeralds in the rulebook, where did that go? There's actually a special section in the back of the rulebook here that we have sticky shut, so there's no temptation to open it early, but it says once you've done that, go ahead, feel free to open that and see what goodies are inside. Once enough of these stages have been cleared, you're going to flip this over. And then there's a boss battle on the other side. Each stage has its own boss. So Egg Robo is the boss of Green Hill Zone. And the boss, it's played very similarly. There is a Badnik card for that boss that comes out and cannot be eliminated. It just can be dealt with momentarily. And also the boss will have these special boss pattern cards that you have to clear kind of the same way you clear the zone cards. You would play a die here to discard it, do it again here as you get closer and closer, and then once you play a die on that spot, you would hit the boss, dealing 1 of the damage, and you take 1 of the health tokens off of him and put it away for points. Once you do all the boss's health, then they're defeated and the players win the scenario.
So awesome. I mean, I really love when you're able to make an analog experience feel like the digital. And this really has that true Sonic feel.
Yeah, that was our big goal here, was to really like figure out how to take a fast-paced game like Sonic, because it is a fast-paced platformer that's about twitchy reactions and whatnot, and turn it into kind of a push-your-luck game where it's obviously a little bit more methodical because you're playing with cards and dice, but it still captures the essence of what the game represented.
Awesome. And then we have a couple other games back here. It looks like we have Street Fighter.
Yeah.
So we can check that out here.
This is Street Fighter V Champion Edition Legends. It is a 1 to 4 player cooperative board game. And you are on this map, and enemies, will spawn on these little numbers, and they will try and, each enemy turn, the enemies will move to try and attack you. And you are fighting back with cards doing Street Fighter moves. So, if you're Ryu, you would take the Shoto deck and the Zoner deck and shuffle them together to create your deck, and then you have these special moves. So on your turn, you play these cards. So this is Dash. I would move to and fill up my EX meter a little bit, or perhaps I would do a projectile. I can shoot anybody in a line. Oh, I'm moving Ken and not Ryu. Anyway, and I could shoot in a line. When I attack, you roll dice to see if you hit. Oh, I destroyed this enemy. And then there's a combo aspect similar to the video game where you're trying to kind of chain cards together with your special moves to pull off combos. So you use these symbols to use your various special moves. So I've now that I have this dash on the board, I can discard this to do a Hadouken, which costs a punch and a move here, and then that would allow me to shoot another projectile where I'd roll 3 dice. There's different stages that have different stage effects. So we're on the Kenzuki estate, and your rivals can show up. So Ken would show up here, who's just a tougher enemy, obviously, than the little minions that spawn. Each player who's playing will have their own rival that could show up. And then there's also a big boss. So we're playing against M. Bison. There are a few different big bosses who are villains from the Street Fighter games. And he has a bunch of different moves that he can do. And that's the game, effectively. So yeah, it's instead of just being like a 1-versus-1 fighting game, it's a 1 to 4 player co-op. So you can get more people involved than just the one-on-one game, and then the kind of fights are playing out with enemies, enemies controlled by the game.
Awesome, and I love all the artworks. If you are a fan of the game, you'll definitely recognize everybody and know, because it looks like it's just pulled right from the game, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
So awesome. And then I think we have one more that we can show some of.
Yes. Let's clean this one up.
So we'll. Yeah. Oh yeah. When's this one coming out?
This one is currently on its way to stores.
Okay.
So it'll be at Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, and local game stores shortly. It's not online yet. It'll be online at some point soon as well.
Soonish.
It's all the copies of Street Fighter are in transit, hopefully available at your local game store soon.
Perfect. Okay, and now we got a One Piece game that was just announced, but we can't show everything for it, but we can talk a little bit about it.
Yes, so this is Luffy's Bento Panic. It is a 3 to 9 player game.
Okay.
It's kind of got a frenetic party energy. What you're going to be doing in it is you're going to be playing the role as a Straw Hat crew member after a successful adventure, and there's a big feast, and you're trying to eat the most food.
Okay.
So on your turn, or not on your turn, but at the beginning of a turn, everyone plays at the same time. It's a simultaneous action game. You're going to put both of your fingers in the air, and you're going to count down. Someone is 3, 2, 1, and with each finger, you're going to do an action. So the actions are you can point at the bag, and doing that, you'll get to draw 2 random food from the bag. Oops. You can point with both fingers at the bag, so you get 4. You can also point at one of your neighbors, or both, like that. And if you do that, you get to steal an entire pile of food from your neighbor. So I look over here, I could take this entire pile of oranges and move it to mine. If we both point at each other, then we cancel each other out and nothing happens. So what you can do is you can also choose to point with both fingers in one direction. And if I do that, he's only pointing one at me, I would get to still steal. Any successful steal action only gets you 1 pile, so if he's pointing somewhere completely else and I go like this, I still only get 1 piece of food. I just have a better chance of actually completing the steal.
Okay.
You can also go like this, and that will block any number of fingers. So if I'm going like this and he's blocking, both of my steal attempts are blocked. And then finally, the most important thing is you can eat. And so that's one of your hands or both your hands. You cover your mouth to eat. And for each hand doing that, you'll get to take a pile from your pile here and put it into your bento box to score at the end of the game. And at the end of the game, again, whoever has the most food is the winner. There's also meat tokens, and the meat tokens are special in that they are worth extra bonus points, but you can only eat meat if it is in a pile of 5 or greater. So right here, I can't choose to eat that yet because there's only 2 or 1. But if it was a pile of 5, then now it is a legal play to try to eat. And so whenever I do an eat, I can choose to try to score that. Meat is also a little dangerous, though, because these juicy meat tokens here, which are a little bit darker red and have a juicier piece of meat, whenever one of those is pulled from the bag, the Luffy tracker goes down. And when the Luffy tracker hits 0, Luffy is going to be drawn to the person whoever has the most meat at the time, and they will eat all of their food. And that will signify the end of a round. So once that's done, you'll reset, you'll do it again, and then a 3rd round will happen, which is last call. And during the last call round, things will progress by 2 instead of 1 every time a meat token is pulled like that. And then after the last call, the game is over and you score up.
Awesome. That sounds like a really fun, frenetic party game to break up some of the larger games.
Yeah, it's got kind of a frenetic one-piece energy, but it's not too chaotic because you only really have to pay attention to the people to your left or right. You don't have to be scoping out the entire 9-player board if you're playing in a giant group. So it's still contained, but it has a lot of energy. It's a lot of fun. That's the basics of what we can show here.
Okay.
But there is also some special stuff with the Straw Hats. There's some extra mechanics that kind of give them personality because you get to play as the different Straw Hats.
Okay. And when can we look for this one coming out? About?
We're doing an early launch at Gen Con, and then it should be at stores in September.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all so much.
Of course.